Okay, so this one is also by Sandra Cisneros. This is also in the book that we just discussed, The House on Mango Street, okay? And so I want to talk, before we get into this, I want to talk about voice. What is voice in writing? Voice in writing is the ability to show who you are through the words that you use. And that's what we've been doing this whole time. And what we're going to do on this, I want you to look carefully. Remember, she's from a little girl's point of view, but it's based on her life. So let's see how she felt during this time, based on the word choice, right, which we just looked at, A House on Mango Street. So this one says hairs, and it says everybody in our family has different hair. If you noticed on this, as well as The House on Mango Street, look at that opening statement. And then look at this opening statement. We didn't always live on Mango Street. She has a certain syntactical style in that most of her essays that she writes in short stories begin with a simple sentence, okay? So each person has a different hair. My father's hair is like a broom, I'm sorry, all up in the air. Do you need something? And me, my hair is lazy. It never obeys. Barrettes or bands. Carlos's hair is thick and straight. He doesn't need to comb it. Ninny's hair is slippery, slides out of your hand. And Kiki, who is the youngest, has hair like fur. But my mother's hair, like little rosettes, like little candy circles, all curly and pretty, because she pinned it in pin curls all day, sweet to put your nose into when she is holding you, and you feel safe and warm. You feel safe is the warm smell of bread before you bake it, is the smell when she makes room for you on her side of the bed, still warm with her skin, and you sleep near her. The rain outside falling, and Papa snoring. The snoring, the rain, and Mama's hair smells like bread. Isn't that a beautiful little vignette?
So, like, her mom's hair even, like, it smells like bread.
It smells like home. She is describing here a picture of home, right, and her family. And she begins, though, by talking about the differences, not just the differences in her hair, but in the differences of who they are and what they represent. Do you see? And so what she does in here, too, if you look at this, her syntax in here, in this whole paragraph, it is one long sentence. Here, it begins with but, and it ends with snoring. And then we have a smaller sentence here that she repeats. Do you see that? So this idea of my mother's hair, and she repeats it, my mother's hair, simile, like little rosettes, like little candy circles. Okay, so the tone of this is what? How does she feel towards her family?
She probably loves them.
Yes, she feels safe to be herself, safe with her mother, right? And she describes her mother's hair more than she describes everyone else, because we know that her mother is the central key to her life, isn't she? And so she said, his hair, Papa's hair, is like a broom. So we have several similes in here, don't we? Like a broom. Can you just see it sticking up? And me, my hair is lazy. So we can see that it's probably kind of curly. It just doesn't do what you want it to do, right? She could possibly be maybe a little lazy herself. Carlos's hair is thick and straight. He doesn't need to comb it. It always looks good, right? And Ninny's hair is slippery, slides right out of your hand. And Kiki, who is the youngest, has hair like fur. So all these are pictures of her family, and probably you could infer some of their character traits, can't we? About who they are, and she did that on purpose, and she uses repetition. So, for example, how many similes does she use? Like a broom, 1.
Hair like
2. Rosettes, 3.
like little candy shapes.
Yeah, 4. So 4 similes, right? And then she has a repetition of certain phrases. My mother's hair, my mother's hair, repetition. The emphasis repetition on that, which is the anaphora, isn't it? Can you see that? The anaphora, my mother's hair, my mother's hair. She wants us to stop and to think about how secure she feels in her mother's presence. And her mother probably is very sweet, right? Like candy circles. And she uses the word sweet to put your nose into when she is holding you. Here again, look at that. Holding you, anaphora, 2 times right there. And you feel safe. Is the warm, and so her grammatical structure is not right on, is it? Because if you have all these commas, and if you were going to just study grammar, it's not completely right. Okay, it's like a run-on essentially. So put your all day. She pinned it in pin curls all day, and she should have said, and it's sweet to put your nose into when she's holding you, and you feel safe, like the smell of warm bread before you bake it. But she chose that so that it all goes together. So when you bake bread, I don't know if any of you have ever done that or seen your mother do it, but you have all these ingredients. You have the dough, and then you have to put the water and all these other little things in, and you knead it with your hands, and you get everything in there, okay? So it all blends together, and it's kind of sticky and pulley, and then you roll it into a ball and get it ready to bake. And so by using that, we can see very clearly the picture of her mother being everything to her and essentially the family. She is the glue that binds the family together. And she does that through this picture of the warm smell of bread before you bake it. And then when you bake it, oh my gosh, right? The smell of baking bread, even better. Okay? And then, of course, the repetition of the word warm. So how many times does she use the word warm? 1, 2. We have 2 of those, right? And then we have the word smells, or smell, 1, 2. Do we have any more than 2?
Oh, we can't see that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me that. Okay. The smells and the smell. And then, of course, we have the anaphora at least twice in here. And then here she has Papa snoring and the snoring. Okay. She ends with snoring and she begins with snoring. Okay. That is the anadiploses, which we haven't discussed yet, that technique. You end with one word and you pick up the next word as the same right in there. And that's another literary technique that we'll talk about. And then mama's hair that smells like bread. So essentially the simile is 5, I think. Right? 5.
Oh,
Okay. So her voice as a little girl comes through very clearly, doesn't it? Through the use of her examples, her similes, her descriptions. Okay? And so those are the kinds of things that we want to think about in our own writing. How can we incorporate some of this stuff in our own writing to make our poems and everything else that we're writing more vibrant, more robust, to convey just the right tone? So that's why we look at good writers and we write down some of the words and verbiage that they use in order for us to incorporate some of it in our own writing and to learn from it. Okay?